This is Ann Rossley, and today we're talking property taxes. 2024 is a crucial year for downtown Chicago homeowners as their property taxes are going to be reassessed this year. What does that mean to you? Let's take a look at property taxes, how they're determined, and how can you protect the value. You're going to get a sheet that looks like this. And one of the things it says on here, you can't read it because it's as much as I bring it in, you're not going to be able to see it. But it highlights and says, no action is required. Ignore that. You do need to take action. You need to take it in a timely fashion. And I'm going to show you how to do that. This section of the page will tell you what your new assessed value is and how that compares to the previous 2 years. And that's what we're going to talk about today. All right. What do you need to know about Cook County property taxes? First of all, Cook County property taxes are paid in arrears. So far this year, you have paid 2022 taxes, and in March of 2024, you paid 55% of the 2023 bill. That was 55% of 2022. Now, the August 1 bills, when they come out, that'll be a real number. It'll be the actual balance. It could be higher. It could be lower than that March 1 payment. Chances are, folks, it's going to be higher. Every 3 years, however, your home value is reassessed. Cook County assessor will decide what the value of your home is, and that's one of the components that determines your property taxes. But it's important that you act within the window. So let's talk about it. Now, taxes for 2023, which you're paying right now, are based on a $17.6 billion budget. That's an increase of $909 million, or a 5.4 increase versus the previous year. This is the 29th year that property taxes have risen, and they've gone up 37.9% in 29 years. But they claim that doesn't mean you owe more, because some of the other taxing bodies may change. There may be some refunds. So there's a lot more to just Cook County budget, if you will. There are so many layers to this. It involves the assessor, the Board of Review, the Illinois Department of Revenue, the county assessor, local governments, the clerk, and finally it's the treasurer who actually prints the bill and mails it to you. Chicago Public Schools that levied an increase of $311 million for 2022-23, and they claim that the amount of taxes is not going to go up by that amount. They claim that the new properties that are being built and sold, new construction that are added to the payrolls, will absorb that increase, and it won't be reflected to people who currently are homeowners. I misunderstood this when I started preparing, and so I looked at new construction at 9 Walton. 9 Walton is paying 2.2% of their sales value in property taxes. But the average median homeowner in Cook County pays $3,700 a year, which is a 3% increase. These are the taxing bodies that contribute, and you'll see community college, park district, county, library, fire protection. All of these have something to do with the amount that is taxed. All right. Attorneys hate this, but everybody says, like, how do I judge whether I'm paying too much or too little? Generally speaking, based on the Lincoln Institute of Land Policy and the Minnesota Center for Fiscal Excellence, about 1.5% of your purchase price is what you should be paying in taxes. If you're significantly below 1.5%, you're doing quite well. If you're paying 2.5% and you live in Cook County, you're probably paying more in property taxes than your neighbors or others who live in the city. So you may want to look into that. To put it in perspective, this 1.5% is about 1/5% higher than the average for the 53 most populous U.S. cities. So when people say, oh, our taxes are so high, they're pretty much in the middle of what other people around the country and big cities are paying for taxes. Now, commercial, on the other hand, is quite a different story. Commercial property owners are paying 4%, not 1.5% of their value, and they are the highest of these 53 most populous cities. So if you wonder why certain companies are leaving downtown Chicago, that could be part of the reason. All right. I want to show you an example here. This is a property in Lakewood, Balmoral. In 2022, their first installment, they paid $14,120, which was 55% of 2021's total. In the second half, the city realized that they had gone under quite a bit of a renovation. The value of the property had gone up, and so they therefore had an additional $33,000 they had to pay. So their total for 2022 was $47,471. Then in March, and I'm not saying they're delinquent. I can't believe they're delinquent, but ignore that. 55% of the 47,000 was 26,109. That's what they paid on March 1 of this year. But what I find interesting is you can go in and look at your 20-year history, and I did that for this property. That property was assessed $5605 in 2003. In the 20 years since then, taxes have gone up 746.9%. But let me tell you what it took care of that. I know that they had a property tax freeze in 2003. That concluded. Then they did renovations to increase the value of the home, and it therefore went up to the 47,000 that it is today. So this shows you the difference between doing a property tax freeze and doing renovations, how that can impact the value of your property taxes. Okay, the next thing, it's not just a straight number. Your value is such and such, and therefore you pay X, Y, Z in taxes. This shows you, and I am going to eliminate myself for just a moment here so you can see this. It's probably more realistic in Chicago to say $1 million for a single family home instead of 100,000 in this example. So, but let's just say you have a $100,000 studio condo, and they take 10% immediately and call that the assessed value. There's an equalizer that gets multiplied to this number, and it varies every year. In 2022, you can see that it's 2.9237, but in this example, it was 2.916. That gives you the equalized assessed value, EAV. It's from this number that you deduct your homeowner's exemption and your senior tax exemption. So when you tour a property and there's no homeowner's exemption attached to it, and you ask us, you know, how much will I save if I get the homeowners? We can't possibly give you an exact number because taxes are determined based on a number subtracted to that equalized assessed value, which changes every year and then is multiplied by the tax proration. But you could save, if you have a senior exemption and a homeowner's exemption, $18,000 off your EAV. Okay. Number one, to save on your property taxes, be sure that you are taking advantage of all the property tax exemptions available to you. The first one is the primary residence homeowner's exemption. The second one is if you're 65 as of January 1, you get the senior exemption. There are also others you may qualify for, whether they're for disability, for veterans, for special home improvements that you've done to the property, also property tax freeze for renovations, all things to consider. All right, the second way to save on your property taxes is the assessed value. This is the year that all the different townships are being reassessed. Recently, Oak Park, Berwyn, Nutria, and Palos had reassessments, and Rogers Park just finished the last file date for theirs, but you can see that coming up, West Chicago, Lakeview, that means if you live between Fullerton and Devon along the lakefront or as far west as Western, you're about to get this assessment, so look out for it. Hyde Park, Lake, North Chicago, South Chicago are all being reassessed. Rogers Park, I'm not going to get into this. It'll get too boring for one thing, but this shows some of the calculations that they put in to come up with the assessed values for the properties within Rogers Park. Here's what you need to know. You have only 30 days from the date you get that reassessment notice to file your appeal. If you miss it, you're going to have to wait another 3 years to file another appeal. You don't have to have like all the information or be 100% ready to go, but you do have to file. You can go to the Cook County Assessor's website like I did to find out when those letters are going out. They just haven't told us when Lakeview's going out next. How can you succeed in an appeal? There are basically 3 ways. Number 1, lack of uniformity, meaning if your home is just like 3 others nearby, but they're paying substantially less, you can use that as a reason. Another reason might be overvaluation. For example, maybe you purchased your home at a lower price because it was a fixer-upper, but they still have it assessed based on what they erroneously think it's worth. Then that would be a reason to appeal. And then finally, misinformation. Perhaps they think your home has 5 bedrooms, you really have 3. Maybe they think your lot is 50 by 175 and it's really 25 by 125. So information, and you'll be able to see that within the assessor's website, is a reason for appeal. You're going to gather information, look at comparable sales of homes just like yours, and focus on market value. You can find your property taxes at this website, cookcountypropertyinfo.com. Then the last thing I'm going to say to you is this: don't be afraid to hire an attorney to help you. Attorneys often will charge a percentage of the first year tax savings. So if you save $10,000 the first year, $3,300 might be the amount they get paid, but then that second $10,000 you don't have to pay the attorney for. So it's certainly worth it. Most people who are savvy about this appeal every year. It's not too early to reach out and find a tax attorney who you can hire to get the ball rolling so that you don't miss this 30-day window, that you do appeal on the value. And of course, everybody, most importantly, the home you're living in as your primary residence, make sure that you are getting your tax exemptions that you're entitled to. That's the easiest and quickest and best way to save money on your property taxes. If you have more questions, and I know I gave you a quick overview here, if you have more questions, please reach out. I'm Ann Rossley with Beard & Warner. Let's connect.